One man. Goodbye. Hello, Heisman.
20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. All the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone.
Four-man Alabama rush. Got him. No, they didn't. Oh, my gracious.
Yep.
How about that?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Three Technique, the college football podcast at the intersection of the X's and O's and the Jimmies and the Joes. And admittedly, we have done this a little bit out of order. We have a local celebrity on the channel for the first time in podcast form, but not the first time in written form. One, Avery Barham is joining us to talk all things Texas A&M. And Avery, your Substack article, What's Next for Texas A&M, did quite well for our Jimmies and Joes, so I knew I had to get you on the show.
I am so happy to be here. I love talking about Texas A&M. I would do it for free, and I do it for free, so I have no complaints when someone asks me to do it for them. I am glad it got taken well. I know there are a lot of people who aren't A&M fans that could take that in any direction that they wanted, so happy to be here, happy to talk about Texas A&M. I would do it any day of the week.
Well, good to know you'll do it for free. I'll cancel the Brinks truck delivery. As we speak, that'll save me a little bit. No, but so fun to have you on the show, to officially introduce you to those of us that those Jimmies and Joes that watch over on YouTube, or maybe you're listening on the podcast. Before we get started, let the folks know where they can go follow you for everything A&M coverage.
Yeah, so primarily I'm on Twitter. It's AvesDB, AVESDB. That's where I post all of my Texas A&M related tweets. And I also throw a few jabs to other schools in there. So I try to keep it diverse. And then I do a weekly podcast on there as well called Brand New Gig. We're currently in the midst of basketball and baseball season, so trying to cover both of those. But that's primarily where you can find me. I have my own Substack as well. I don't post super frequently on there, but I try to dabble on the writing side of things a bit, and you can find that through my Twitter too, but that's where you'll find me.
Amazing. Well, let's get right into it. You mentioned baseball and basketball coverage going on over on your channel. Texas A&M obviously in to the dance now. I mean, we would assume, unless there's some sort of hijinks by the committee, which you can never rule out with the NCAA.
Right.
But I have to imagine you're in a good mood as of right now, what A&M is doing on the basketball court, on the baseball field. But let's talk what they did on the football field. And the first question I think that came to mind when I was queuing you up for the article, what I think a lot of Aggies are interested and excited to talk about, look forward with, how would you grade what Mike Elko did this last season?
Yeah, I think this is something that a lot of people get inaccurate, is due to recency bias and forgetting that two things can be true at once. And so I gave A&M's grade on the 2025 season an A-. One, because this is Mike Elko's second year as head coach, and he already got us to the playoffs. And that's not something that the majority of programs can say. So that in itself is already a huge step forward for our program. I mean, Jimbo was here for how many years, and he didn't even get us close to sniffing it. So I got to give credit where credit is due. And so the two things being true at once, yes, it is disappointing to end the season on a loss to your rival and then a loss at a home playoff game without scoring a touchdown. Like, that sucks. That's inexcusable. That's not something that I am happy with. But I also can recognize that going 11-1 during the regular season is not something that you can just like throw right off as nothing. And you can talk the whole schedule of madness, which we did the whole entire season. And after the season was over, and people are still talking about it. But I am very satisfied with where we're at as a program, which also sets me up to continue looking at this team as someone who should be making the playoffs every year. So I don't think this should be where we're looking at our ceiling. I think it's almost a floor in a sense.
It did feel like finally the appetizer to what we expect Texas A&M football to be. Maybe not making the playoff every year, although if we keep expanding the field, then it gets harder and harder to say, yeah, you shouldn't make a field of 16,
right.
24, right? But with that, I'd love to know, and maybe for people that didn't follow you throughout the regular season, what was the status of your mental health as we we had the ups and downs, Notre Dame, South Carolina, obviously the way that it finished. Like, how did you experience the 2025 season as opposed to maybe years past?
I mean, it was probably still just as unhealthy as the rest of the years that I've been watching A&M football. I tried not to watch it as like a waiting for the other shoe to drop because after that Notre Dame game, that was the first time where I think me and 98% of Aggies as a collective thought, oh, like we're not just saying what if, like this could actually be different now because that was a million different demons that we had exercised at that point. And I went to the LSU game on the road and winning that game and emptying out their stadium and turning it into Kyle Field East was no easy feat despite that that was not one of their better teams that they've had. And it was fun to watch Brian Kelly get fired, and it was fun to watch Marcel run all over Death Valley. And there were a lot of games this year where I just felt like I wasn't holding my breath the entire time, which was very different than it has been in years past. Um, Being at the South Carolina game, I it felt like someone who I don't know how to put it into words, but like when you're someone who puts so much faith in something and then you're so naive to believe it could work out and you're sitting there at halftime and you're thinking I just have put my faith in this team for the whole year and I finally let my guard down and boom it all comes crashing down. Like I'm not going to sit there and pretend that I wasn't externally panicking. And then the second half happened and you would think like the world caught on fire and we were going to win a national championship, but over the year as a whole has just felt different because I could catch my breath and I wasn't necessarily waiting to be disappointed.
That's a great way to phrase it because I think through recent history, certainly Kevin Sumlin, Jimbo Fisher, it felt like we front loaded the expectations. We got to the front of the line. Hey, we're top 4 in the country, right? We win an Orange Bowl, and then reality sets in. And so that South Carolina game, I went for a walk at halftime. I told my wife, hey, I need to not be here.
Yeah.
I went for a walk saying it's over. Happened to throw the game on in my AirPods as the third quarter started. And I did not stop walking until we won. So I think the total mileage was like 8.25 miles that I walked in the second half. So with that, is there something crazy that you've done? Maybe you're not superstitious, but maybe just a little stitious. Is there something crazy you've done for Texas A&M to win a game?
I'm trying to think of the craziest thing I've done because I've done tons of little things. Like the Arkansas game in 2023, I had left to go get a drink from Sonic and we were down 2 scores or something and we had scored while I was out. So I just stayed parked at Sonic the whole time.
Yep.
Um, I'm trying to think. I've probably done something this year. Like I've stayed sitting in a certain spot or I've changed clothes, like all the small regular things that everyone does. I don't know if I can think of anything off the top of my head. I can't think of anything super crazy, but something's gonna come to me because it's definitely happened.
Well, definitely blurt it out when you do that 2023 Arkansas game. Trey, one of our co-hosts here on the show, he was in the kitchen when we scored to cut it to 7, and so his wife and I made him stay in the kitchen for the rest of that game. So, listen, you're amongst friends here. If something comes to you, would love to hear that. We can get back on script though. Talk to me about Mike Elko as a CEO. There was kind of some hand wringing, Avery, when he took over that role. Folks were asking maybe should he be more involved on the defensive side? Should he have just a general manager that kind of handles the business side? Because the general theory was there's no way that Elko is going to be able to manage the day-to-day and the high-level stuff at a championship caliber level. It certainly feels like he's put a pretty big ding in that argument from the naysayers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different coaching examples we can look at. I mean, our biggest rival, Steve Sarkisian, he's a very offensive-minded head coach. He has his hands all over that offense. And I mean, that's up to them whether they want to keep doing that or not. And it's not my team, so I don't really care how successful it is. But with Mike Elko and being such a defensive-minded guy, that gives me a lot of peace of mind, I think, when it comes to that side of the ball, because he's not our coordinator. We have a defensive coordinator, but I know that he's always going to be working at least closely with what is going on that side of the ball. Like, we're a very scheme-oriented team, at least when it comes to our defense, which is why I'm more confident going into next year with our defense and our defensive line more so than I am our offensive line and our offensive side of the ball, just because I know our head coach, that's his bread and butter. And I know how big of a culture guy he is, and I know how much he loves the game of football. Like, I know that he started being paid next to nothing, and I know that he started working in basically what would be a portable just so he could be involved with the game of football. Like, he's here because he loves it. I'm sure his most recent paycheck and extension doesn't hurt, but I mean, he worked to get there, and he loves A&M. As far as I can tell, he doesn't want his family to go anywhere else. So I know he understands A&M, and I think that's where the CEO side of it comes into, because you need someone who understands the company. And the company of A&M is something that he gets very well, and the people that he is working with and the people that he's serving. Uh, I don't think Jimbo really got it. I mean, Jimbo wanted to win a national championship. I believe that 100%, but he wanted to do it his way, and he wasn't willing to waver on adapting to A&M. He wanted A&M to adapt to him, and I think that's very different with how Mike Elko approaches his role at A&M. And so I am fully on board with the style of coaching that he's chosen. I think it's worked fairly well over the past 2 years, and I don't see that wavering. Um, I mean, there's just been some nuance, because anytime there's a defensive hiccup, it's like, okay, people want to blame it on Elko, and then anytime there's defensive success, they want to praise Elko. So it's kind of how you find that middle ground. But as a whole, I am a big fan of the way that he's come into A&M and fully just adapted what we've given him and learned to work with that rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to phrase it, because before we hired Elko, my only ask for the head coaching position was, I need a glass eater. I want somebody who wants to do the work, who will give that gritty, tough nose mentality to the players that he then brings to town. And Elko was not the sexy hire at the time. I mean,
Oh,
if you were on Twitter, like, the fan base was so divided over his hiring, and would he be anything more than just a really good defensive coordinator? And I think
hmm
for all those reasons, it's obviously been a really nice success through these first 2 seasons. Avery, flip it over to the other side of the ball, though, and talk to me about Marcel Reed. Landon Tingwall, who obviously is very, very well known for his film breakdowns on Twitter, did Marcel Reed's 2025 campaign, I believe yesterday, Sunday, March 7th, as we're recording this. Or Saturday, I should say. And he tweeted a roller coaster gif after watching all of that film, but noted that he's got all the talent in the world.
hmm
Talk to me about Marcel Reed, like the good, the bad. What do you need to see from him in 2026?
No, because I was looking at, because he had tweeted a few days prior, I'm about to watch Marcel Reed's film, like, tell me what I should know.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much all the responses were like, you're going to watch the best play of your life, and then 2 minutes later, the worst play of your life. And I love Marcel Reed. Like, I truly am a big Marcel Reed defender, because I saw how much our fan base was cracking down on Kellen Mond. And now looking back, everyone is suddenly the biggest Kellen Mond fan in the world. So I don't want to be one of those people that tries to flip the script after Marcel Reed is gone. And that's not to say he's not inconsistent. He is, but he's also a sophomore. That was his first full year starting with an SEC slate. He came in the year prior having to learn a new system under Klein and jumping in for Wegman. And now he's having to learn a new system because we have a new offensive coordinator. So I think the first couple of games, I'm going to give him a little bit of let his leash kind of keep it at a distance, just because I know learning a new system is a lot. And he's not going to get as much patience, I guess I should say, this year, just because there are big expectations. I mean, the Heisman Marcel thing was all fun and stuff, but I'm not telling you that he needs to be in New York at the end of the year, but you need to have someone who's touching the ball on every play to not make you hold your breath when he's getting the ball. And he has all the tools. I mean, we've watched him second half of South Carolina, at LSU, a lot of the plays he had in Notre Dame. Like, he has the potential to be a New York quarterback. Like, that is not up for debate. The problem is his floor. And when he gives us first half South Carolina, when he gives us certain plays during Arkansas. Like there are very different versions of Marcel Reed that we see at within 5 minutes of each other. And there are a lot of things that he does that make him seem very young and make him seem nervous. Has very quick feet. He has a very quick release. He tends to overthrow his receivers. His release, even for just short like out routes, seems to just be like laser beams. And I just want to like shake his shoulders and tell him to take a deep breath because he has all the capability in the world to be a great quarterback, and he knows he does. Like he has the mentality of a great quarterback. It just hasn't been unlocked at a consistent level yet. And I hope that this offensive coordinator and this quarterback coach can do that. And also having receivers who he's more familiar with will have Craver. And so I think comfortability on the offensive side of the ball, knowing that there are guys that you can rely on because forming that relationship is difficult. Isaiah Horton will be a good addition. We're bringing back ABR, bringing back Bussy. If we can have a bit of a consistent running back room as well, that will take the pressure off of them. Losing Le'Veon Moss hurt a lot because that does put more pressure on Marcel's shoulders to be more consistent in the backfield because you're giving him more plays and more throwing plays because you can't be as elusive. So I think he needs to rely a lot more on his athleticism because that's when he thrives. And so I think we need to really abandon I'm blanking on the word. He's an athletic quarterback, and we need to rely on that. And I think we kind of got away from that a little bit last year, but I want to see more of Marcel on his feet and just being a little bit tricky and being himself, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very long-winded answer, but
No, all good. I think what you hit on there at the end is something that I know I screamed at my TV multiple times, like just be an athlete, right? Don't try and guide the football into a window. You know, if a lane opens up in your offensive line, take it. Like we will take an 8-yard run. You don't have to hit the home run play, through the air every time. What is, and you can, I mean, it could be a one-word answer if you wanted. What is that one thing that you would like Marcel to improve on this year that like you say, hey, if he does this, if he does X, we really get to see his ceiling more consistently?
I think patience. I think I said consistency originally, but patience. I think he tends to rush through his progressions. Like you said, he wants the home run. And it's fun. It's fun to throw a 60-yard bomb downfield. And it's fun to watch. Like I'm not saying get rid of it completely, but I think patience. Like if you hit those 5-10 yard checkdowns, that's going to get you to the end zone if you can do that consistently.
Mm-hmm.
If you can be patient and understand that you don't need to be a flashy quarterback to be a good quarterback, that's when we're going to see success because we have all the tools to make our way down the field. If Marcel can be patient, and if you don't see those progressions, run. Like you said, running up the field, he did it at LSU multiple times. He scored multiple times doing exactly that. I think patience. I changed my answer because consistency, I think, was what I put in the article. But they kind of go hand in hand. It's just trusting himself and knowing that there's going to be an option for you to move the ball. It doesn't need to be live and die by X or Z,
Yeah, I think patience gets you consistency, right? I think is your larger point there, which I think is spot on. I think from a fundamental standpoint, I would love to see him set his feet more regularly.
Yeah, that's
right?
the big one.
Yes. I mean, my goodness, how many times was he throwing a football with his, like a shortstop, right? Like out of his hip pocket. And it's just like, Marcel, like what, step into your throw. You mentioned him overthrowing receivers. It felt like a lot of the time that he would overthrow, maybe he was throwing off his back foot, wasn't fully stepping into the throw, and he, ends up kind of dropping the arm down and sailing it. Good to know that we all saw the same things on film. That means the coaching staff did. No, it means Marcel did. So hopefully that gets corrected. I want to talk running game and offensive line here in just a second. But something I didn't ask you in the article, you mentioned just a second ago. What do you do with Terry Bussey? That's been a question that we've had in our group chat multiple times. And Trey certainly comes down on one side of it. I come down on another side. 5-star athlete from Timpson, did everything. Mr. Texas high school football, his junior year? Was it his senior year? Anyway, what do you do with him?
This is funny. I was just talking about him with someone who's a South Carolina fan, because he had gotten one of his football cards, and he was like, I
Hmm.
didn't see much of Terry Bussey this year. Like, who is this guy? I'm like, I don't know who he is. That's the problem. Like, I love him to death. Like, if you watch any clip about his backstory, like, you can't not love him. Like,
Oh,
he's one of the most likable players on our team. Like, he is like the like Mr. Football, does everything right. Like, super sweet kid, so athletic. It's just like I don't know where he fits because there are just people that fit better. It's like when you're taking a test and your teacher tells you there's multiple right answers, but one answer is more correct than the
yeah,
other
yeah,
answer. Like I think he's good at punt returns. Like I think we can keep him there because he's fast, and I haven't seen enough of these running backs to know if they would fit better there. I just don't know if there's a spot for him as a receiver. I mean, we already have three really good guys,
hmm,
and he doesn't have the size to put him there. I don't know. He doesn't have the hands to take the spot from someone else. It just sucks because like my heart wants him to be on the field at all times, but my head is like, girl, there's nowhere to put him.
I know. Well, and we've seen the flashes, right? I mean, supreme athlete,
Hmm.
overall, but he's not a burner, right? He's not the
Right,
guy that has the biggest size to play running back or safety. We started him at cornerback when he was first on the roster. I think all of us
right.
kind of raised our eyebrow at that.
Yeah.
And then he gets moved to wide receiver when, yeah, we had a bunch of young guys, but Casey comes in and Craver comes in, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't know if he fits there either. So I don't know. I think if I had to pick one place I would have loved for him to stay at, I honestly think it would be corner. And when he
I was
came,
because he did play two ways. I was in the back of my head thinking maybe we try that out again.
well, I think based off of his size and his athleticism, I think you're right. He's not fast enough to be like a Craver or an ABR out wide, right? You filled that
Hmm.
role, and
Right.
so he's a little redundant there. I mean, there's probably some redundancy at cornerback too, because there's a gazillion kids in that room now. But yeah, I don't know what to do with him.
It sucks. It really does.
Yeah,
It's just like a big what if question mark. I mean, every team has all those guys that they're like,
sure.
oh, what if blah blah blah. I think you just have to commit to something, and if nothing, he needs to be the guy that is pushing the people around him to be competing for their spot
Yeah,
in a sense. Like not ever like I don't want any guys on our team to feel comfortable where they're at. Not in a bad way, just in the like I need to be earning my spot week by week. And Terry Bussey is a guy that could very well be creeping up right behind you. So
yeah. If
I
there's
don't know. It
anybody
hurts.
on the roster outside of Marcel that I'm rooting for to like take the world by storm, it's Terry, because my
Yeah.
gosh, that kid is so athletic, so talented, so fun to watch. I need us to find a role for him. So interesting little rabbit trail. Appreciate you going on
Yeah.
down that with me. Let's go back to the trenches. Running back, offensive line. Le'Veon Moss gone. What, 4 of 5 Maroon Goons gone?
Mhm.
It's a shift change up front
Mhm.
for A&M. Historically, these last several years specifically, you can think of Oklahoma, you think of Texas, you think of LSU, teams that changed their offensive line. Their fan base said, we're going to be fine. It's good. We've got talent. And then it falls apart around them.
Yeah.
So I feel a little bit like the what TV show is it? Is it Arrested Development? Those people are fools. They, dilute themselves into believing a lie, but it might work for us. That's kind of what I
Yeah.
feel like with
Yeah.
A&M. Where do you net out? What's your temperature on the offensive line, the running game going into 26?
I think in the general consensus of the A&M fan base, I would lean more towards the optimistic side. So I said this. I love Adam Cushing. I think he's one of my favorite coaches on our staff. He did a great job this year. This is probably one of our best offensive lines in the past 10 years, give or
Mhm.
take. Um, And so he's going to have a lot on his hands dealing with basically an entire new offensive line. Because even if you have one returner, that's five new guys basically, because they're all trying to mesh with each other. I like that all of our transfers are coming in conference. I think that's right.
That sounds right.
Because that experience is hard to get elsewhere. I mean, you can't get it elsewhere and you can't teach it. So that gives me a little bit of solace. But again, I harped on LSU preseason last year because they were running their mouths about how their offensive line was going to be one of the best in the country because they got all these hot transfers and then next thing you know they're midway through the season with no head coach. So I am trying to like just be neutral about it, I think, because yes, I'm excited because I know our coach is capable, but also all of the past years of evidence from teams that I have harped on proves otherwise. In terms of running backs, this has always been a room for me that has been, I don't know if underutilized is the right word, but we've just never had a flashy guy. Like we've had good running backs. I mean, we've had Travion Williams, A. Chain, I mean, Nia Smith, even you could throw back there. Maybe they were underutilized, but we've never had a standout guy. I think Le'Veon Moss had the potential to be that. I just feel for him with the injury thing. I mean, it's nothing
Hmm.
you can control and it sucks. He could have been that guy, and that's another what if. But again, that's a room that you lost a lot of guys. You're bringing back Ruben Owens and Morrow, and then you bring in a transfer. I mean, that was a room they didn't really focus on when they were hitting the portal. That was one of the last few transfers that we got. A lot of the big guys that were rumored on tech sides never panned out. So on one side, I'm thinking, okay, I don't have a lot of things to look forward to when it comes to running back. Like nothing is flashy, nothing is speaking to me. But on the other hand, if they're not so concerned as to grab a big name from the portal like they were at receiver or offensive line or even safety, then maybe there's just something that they have faith in that I am not seeing. Um, and again, if Marcel has the ability to be a dual threat quarterback, then that takes a little bit of pressure off of the running back room. So I say this all the time, cautiously optimistic is where I put myself, more so for the running backs and the offensive line. I mean, it without question that the offensive line I think will take a step back. And that's not to say that they'll be a bad offensive line. It's just this was probably our best group of Maroon Goons that we've had in a hot sec. So it's just going to have to be something that we not work against, but kind of learn to work with.
Yeah,
Trial and error, I guess.
right. It's tough to replicate not just experience, but experience together, like you said,
Hmm.
right? The running back room, if Ruben Owens can keep his footing as he gets through the
Oh
gap,
my God.
like
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be fine there. I love Morrow. I wish we had used him more in the playoff game against Miami, but I
Hmm.
think he brings an athleticism, a burst that is a real X
Yeah.
factor. And then, I mean, you've got a Tiger Ryden who maybe he's going to be the power back. I think it sounds like you were kind of with me, hoping Bryson Washington was going to come in and be that thunder element, the Franklin native,
Hmm.
but obviously that doesn't end up panning out. So yeah, I mean, balance control for Ruben, and I think we might be fine on the ground game. We'll certainly have to see. But I'm with you. I'm holding my breath maybe a little bit on the offensive line, and it's going to be up to Cushing and those guys to prove us wrong and to hit the ground running. Defensively, listen, I was a student when Miles Garrett and Deshaun Hall were doing their thing. That was a ton of fun. Since then, the A&M pass rush had not been super consistent. It was
Hmm.
not good at the end of Jimbo's tenure, year
No.
one under Elko. It felt like everybody was kind of a step too slow. A lot of quarterback pressure, but we just weren't getting them on the ground. We
Right.
flipped that script this last year,
Hmm.
right? Cash Howell just bursts onto the scene, owns the spotlight, makes a couple of memes along the way, and A&M ends up tying for the lead in the country in sacks over the course of the regular season. So, flash in the pan, or do you think that we're going to run it right back with some of the transfers we brought in, that the depth that this roster has at the edge rusher position?
I wouldn't say flash in the pan, but I also wouldn't say expect that to be what you see on a week in, week out basis. I think it's a very weird dichotomy of what we got in 2024 and 2025. I think the expectations for 2024 were what we got in 2025 and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even harder for me to judge that group, um, just because I think they're a lot harder to predict. I mean, you bring in a guy from Bowling Green, like I am just not football brained enough to even have the whatnots to know that that would be a guy that is going to get lead your team in sacks, and that's exciting. I mean, having a guy who can do that for you makes football a lot more fun. Again, this is a group. We didn't lose as many as our offensive line did, but we are a little bit lost for experience there too. I think we have a lot of exciting young guys that are going to take big steps up. I'm a big fan of Marco Jones, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
very excited to see where he kind of fits into all this. We've seen guys, I mean, Damian Sanford is a linebacker, but him being able to step up. There are a lot of young guys who have had experience in that locker room and on those practice fields, have taken a few reps, know the way the game works, that I'm very excited. So it's very different. Offensive line, you're looking for experience, but it's coming from other schools. Defensive line, you're looking for experience, and it's coming from reps in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they kind of have similar expectations in that you've seen the success that the years prior have had, and it's a similar coaching staff, so you know what they're capable of, and you don't ever want to be taking steps back. I think it will be a small step back. I do, similar to offensive line. But I think there are promises. I think next year our defensive line could be really good because those guys are going to have a full year of experience. They're going to be playing a 9-game SEC slate. Like that's not something that you can learn. That's not something that can be taught. Like you just have to get in there and do it. So I think it's just going to be a lot of learning and figuring out who fits where best and figuring out what works. I think we saw Cassius Howell kind of disappear a little bit at the end of last year. So figuring out how to prevent things like that, that all is something that I'll be looking for in 2026.
Yeah, finishing, I think across the board, whether it be pass rush
Yeah,
or just the offense
winning in
putting the ball
general.
in the
Yeah,
end zone. Yeah, all of the above. Sign me up for that this year.
yeah.
Last positional breakdown, and this was one that I wrote in the question. How does pulling our hair out a little bit, right? The run fits
Oh, yeah.
from the linebackers,
Yeah.
super positive. We can go very quickly here, but what do you need Elko and company to clean up this year in 2026? Torian York is gone. Jay Bateman, the defensive coordinator, the linebackers coach, also gone. So, what do you see A&M needing to get right this year to see a market improvement there?
I think it hurts a lot to lose Torian York in the sense of leadership. I think he did contribute to the problem of run fits when it came to the physical part of football, but when it came to the mental part, like he knew the field better than anyone else that was on it, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's similar to what I said about Marcel Reed. I think patience, because I know all these guys watch film. I know they know how to read an offense. I know that they are capable of tackling a running back, of tackling a quarterback, of doing what they need to do. It just wasn't happening. I don't get paid enough to tell you exactly what they need to fix, but I think it is patience, a lot of it. And I'm gonna have to kind of put up my hands and say that I haven't thought about this enough to give you a real fix because it is something that I pulled my hair out about. And it is something that every weekend that I was scrolling, it was consistently on my feed. And I don't blame anyone for saying it because you would think being in the SEC, that would be one of the more unconscious things that just kind of become habit. So I don't know. I really wish I did. It was very exhausting to watch because it seemed like if we could just figure that one thing out, because we would have a few catbuster plays that without those, our defense looked like a freaking brick wall.
Yeah.
So I just, it was mind-boggling to me that our defense could look SEC caliber all defense, but then have a few plays that made it look like we were like a high school junior varsity team. I don't, like, I don't, it's an enigma. I think that's also
Fair.
A&M football as a whole.
Yeah. Tough but fair. Avery, last question for you. We'll get you out of here on this. You look at the schedule, and it's an it's an SEC schedule, right? You've got road trips to LSU, to Missouri, to Alabama, all before a late bye week, right? I mean, you're playing
Yeah.
8 games before you get a bye week in the regular season. You've got Tennessee and Texas at home. You go to Oklahoma, you go to South Carolina right out of the bye week. We know how difficult that that was a couple of years ago.
Don't remind me.
So yeah, well, you talk about run fits. That was
Yeah.
the night from hell.
God, that was like the worst day of my life.
Arizona State also in non-conference play. So, listen, I don't know that the cupcake narrative is going to exist. At least it shouldn't exist. It shouldn't have existed last year, but Twitter is what it is. So all of that to say, what do you think Texas A&M should finish at the end of 2026? Not what they will finish at, but with that schedule, what should they finish with?
I think I mean this is also me subconsciously trying to get away from the 8-4 narrative, but I think we should at least finish at 9-3.
Yeah,
I think
that
we
feels
should
fair.
win all our non-conference games, and it's a tougher road slate. So I think we drop 1 or 2 there, and then I mean 3 losses in a 9-game SEC conference schedule is not crazy, and I think given the way that the playoffs are changing, 9-3 still could get you into the playoffs. So it's not a total failure of a season. But I just given all the resources and the way that Mike Elko is taking this program and all of the weapons that we have, 9-3 is where I'd like to set our expectation at. Or
Yeah.
at least my expectation.
I think that's right where I have them as well. I don't, we haven't done the deep dives or any of the preview stuff.
Right.
By the time May rolls around, we'll have a pick for every single one of these games. But 9-3 is a floor. Feels about right. And obviously you'd like to see them achieve more than that. I think the talent on the team is certainly capable of doing that, but 9-3 feels like an appropriate floor for this team. And so, so many of the details, the little things, I think are going to come down to the position groups we talked about. And that's exciting and terrifying all in the same time. Avery, I'm pretty sure that only Aggies have made it this far in the show. So with March Madness around the corner, baseball season in full swing, let them know what you have coming up on your channel and on your show as well.
Yes. Okay. And now that you brought up March Madness, I remembered I don't know if this is the craziest thing I've done, but I remember watching the UNI game. I'm sure you remember this.
Oh, yeah.
With my dad in the living room. And it was me, my dad, and my mom. And we get to the point, we're down, what was it, 16, I think, with under 2 minutes. And so my mom leaves. And so then, the game starts to really roll. And I see her come out of her bedroom. She peeks out and she goes, "How's it going?" And me and my dad at the same time said, "You cannot come in here." And so she was relegated to her bedroom for the rest of the night.
That's
and then
fair.
we allowed her to come back out after the game was over. But similar to your situation.
Punishment fits the crime.
Yes. You gotta do what you gotta do. We won the game, so I can't say it didn't work.
That's right. Exactly.
But with March Madness, I just did a podcast last week. I think it was last week with Luke Evangelist. He's our resident Texas A&M basketball guy. If you follow A&M basketball at all, you definitely know Luke. He's awesome. So go follow him if you don't. But we kind of covered what was left with A&M. We had 4 games left at the time. We didn't know if A&M was going to make the dance. I am almost positive. Again, barring the NCAA, which we know we can't really trust. But the Aggies should be dancing year 1 under Bucky, which is crazy to say. I don't think anyone was saying that a year ago today.
Oh.
So that's a feat in itself. So you can make fun of me and say hang the banner all you want. And I will hang the banner because I think it is incredible what he has done in 1 year. So I will be rooting for Texas A&M. We have the SEC tournament coming up this week. The Aggies are a 6th seed, I believe. So we have first round bye, and then we'll be playing the winner of South Carolina and Oklahoma. So we'll be tuned in for that. I'll probably do an episode later this week or next week, kind of talking about basketball and then also baseball. Baseball's still non-conference, so thankfully nothing too exciting because we've been taking care of business. We had We had our tournament in Arlington, went 2-1 on the weekend. We lost to
Mhm.
UCLA, but that's the number one team in the nation. So, gotta still figure things out, polish things up a bit. I'm not gonna breathe on that one too much, but I think there's a lot of excitement to look forward to for both of those programs. We'll see how the Aggies fare during the month of March, but March Madness as a whole is always so fun. So no matter what the Aggies do, I will be keeping track of my perfect bracket because obviously I everyone thinks they will be the one to make the perfect bracket.
Never,
So
never a doubt there. Yeah, last Power Four head coaching hire, one Bucky McMillan had
mhm.
never done anything major in college basketball. Right, went from high school to
Yeah.
Sanford, won a bunch with the
Mhm.
Bulldogs, and then comes here. Meanwhile, our previous coach losing a season in modern Maryland basketball history. So how about them
Yeah,
apples?
and not to compare, but it's just pointing at the facts. I don't
Listen,
know.
I do nothing but report the facts. So,
Exactly.
Avery, it was a blast to have you on the show tonight. We really appreciate you talking Texas A&M with us. Let's do it again soon.
Yes, thank you for having me on. This is my favorite thing to talk about, so I am happy to join anytime.
Perfect. Well, to the Jimmies and the Joes, thank you guys for hanging out with us, watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever you might get your podcast. If you're part of our Aggie family, you found us for the first time because of this episode, because of Avery, leave us a like, follow the channel. We're Three Ags. We love to talk ball, cover all things college football, and would love to have you along for the ride. So for Avery Barham, I'm Mitch Mason. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Until next time, so long, everybody.